Good morning, everybody. I, Pramodan Marathe, welcome you to a session on developing children to a glorious future. Dreams are the most powerful energy. But do we know how to convert these dreams into reality? Parents have a dream for their children. The children have their own dreams. The teachers and the schools see a dream of high performance of their students. But do we really know how to convert dreams into reality? Is academic performance and marks the only platform to judge success? Success is defined by different people in different ways. But to be very precise, success is getting what you desire, and not only what you desire, but also what you deserve. Because if you get a success which you don't deserve, then that success doesn't stay for a very long time. Dreams may be unlimited, but they cannot be turned into reality without developing capabilities. Dale Carnegie, the famous human development expert, has represented success diagrammatically, and for you I'll draw it on the board. Dale Carnegie has given this pyramid of success, and he says that it is only 15% of the success that is attributable to academic knowledge, academics 15%, and he says that rest of the success is actually dependent on many other qualities, many other skills and traits that a human requires, and that is 85%. There is one more thing that we need to understand, and that is when we get marks, do we get to develop other skills and traits? No, it is actually other way around. If we develop other skills and traits, then there is a great chance of getting academic scores as we desire. Human development is unending and starts in prenatal stage, but the visible part is from the birth of a child till the life lasts. Experts have divided the development of a human in 8 stages of lifespan. The development is in physical, intellectual, emotional, life skills and knowledge parts. Let me tell you a story here. In a school class of 50, there was one boy who was performing academically very well. Any question asked to the boy, he used to reply correctly and used to get praises from the teachers. His academic scores were also very good. At the same time, there was another boy in the class who used to have different thought process. He didn't really focus on the academics. Now that's bad. He should have also focused on the academics apart from having different thoughts. But he had weird ideas. And whenever teacher asked a question to this boy, his responses were such that those responses used to trigger laughter and the teacher used to get annoyed. After a few years, the entire class passed out of the school. They went their different ways. It so happened that a decade later, the scholar boy was once traveling in the town in his own car, a small family car. He stopped at a traffic light And next to him was a limousine car, chauffeur driven. And in the rear seat, this weird thinking boy was sitting. They looked at each other and immediately recognized. Glad to see each other after so many years. They rolled down the window and said, "Oh, we are meeting after so many years. Let's stop at the next restaurant and have a cup of tea." So they drove down to the next restaurant, stopped their cars, went into the restaurant and ordered whatever that they wanted. The weird answering boy asked this scholar as to what he was doing. And he said, "After leaving the school, I joined an engineering college and graduated in computer science. And now I am employed by a multinational company and I am the project lead in software." "That's very good," said the weird answering boy. Then it was the turn of the scholar boy to ask him, "You are traveling in this limousine. Does it belong to you?" He said, "Yes, of course." And he said, "Look, in the school, your answer used to be very weird. You barely scraped through the exams. How did you manage to become so rich? I hope you got your riches through fair means." And the weird boy said, "Yes, of course. After leaving the school, I just did my graduation and then started a business. I always had different ideas and I used those ideas. I thought differently and got huge success." So the scholar boy asked, "How?" He said, "Okay, let me give you an example. Here is a glass of water kept on our table. Are you in a position to carry this water outside the restaurant without using the container, any container?" The scholar boy thought and he said, "How is it possible?" He said, "Precisely, that is the point. You always thought in a straight-jacketed manner. Whatever was taught, your thought process was restricted to whatever was taught. Whereas right from the school days, my thought process used to go in different directions. If I were to carry the water outside, I would keep this glass in a refrigerator, freeze the water to ice, and then I'll keep the glass upside down and take out the frozen water, that is the ice, in the shape of the glass, of course, and I'll carry that outside the restaurant. Don't you agree?" The scholar boy said, "Yes." He says, "That is what is called out of the box thinking. If you ask me, is that the only way out of the box thinking? Yes, that is one of the ways. A human has more than 60 developable traits and skills and their variants. But in the student days, 40 of them are most fundamental and one must develop as many of them as possible while in the school and college days." You will obviously ask me, what is this traits and skills? The traits are the ones which become characteristics of a human and trigger a response to any situation. If the trait is rightly developed, the response to a situation is right. Whereas skills are mainly the practical applications of learned knowledge and practices. Let me give an example. Courage is a trait, and so is the analytical ability of the brain. Whereas oratory is a skill that can be developed through practices. Now this is where skills and trait can be differentiated. And both matter a lot, as we will see as we go along. More the traits instilled in a human, better is the platform for performance of that human. such platform also helps to learn the skills and make a human apply them at the right place, in the right quantum, at the right time. The basic anomaly in our approach to developing children, right from preschool days till those children pass out of the colleges, is that we lack application of a set of structured actions that would develop a child in these 40 fundamental skills and traits. Yes, some part is developed in a structured manner through insertion of the academics. Our focus is only on academics and the marks, because the marks today, particularly in India, dictate the admissions into various institutions, and that's where the parents and the schools and the children restrict themselves. I define a human edifice as a structure that rests on 5 fundamental pillars. The first pillar is that of the intellect. The second pillar is that of the emotional strengths that a human can develop. The third is the physical abilities. The fourth pillar is of the life skills, which are so important today. And the fifth, and quite an important one, is the academic and extra academic knowledge that one must possess. Let me draw a picture for you. There is a fundamental platform. That platform at one end is given by the parents. At the other end is that given by the school or the teachers. And together they have to develop a third one, that is a developmental environment for every child. Stronger the platform, better can be, and stronger could be the structure that is constructed on top of this. The framework. All the pillars, all the beams, if these are strengthened, then the building can be taller, building can be stronger. If this is understood, then we would understand how teachers and parents make a difference to every child's development. There are certain critical developable skills and traits for school and college children. I talked about intellectual, I talked about emotional, I talked about life skills, I talked about physical aspects. Knowledge acquisition is promoted in the schools and colleges, no doubt about it. A very important element. But look at the intellectual ability. The ability to analyze, we call it analytical ability. Ability to comprehend. Retaining something in the memory after having understood it fully well. And the recalling ability. This is a chain. I can draw the chain for you. That first is the concentration. Second is the comprehension. Unless the concentration is good, a person cannot absorb things and won't be able to comprehend things. The comprehension leads to memory. Comprehension leads to memory. And if a thing is retained in the memory and there are inputs to comprehension. The training aids or the way a thing is explained, a concept learning that makes comprehension better and then helps in going into the memory. And developing a recall ability. At home and in the schools, we rarely bother about this. I have interviewed many parents and I asked them a question that suppose in your house you open a tap and you find that there is no water. What could be the possible reasons? Either the municipal corporation has not let the water and so it has not reached your building and so it has not gone into the overhead tank, and since there is no water in the overhead tank, there is no water in the tap. Option 1. Option 2 is that you don't have water in the house, but your neighbor has water in his house. That means there is water in the tank, overhead tank, but the pipe from the overhead tank to your house is probably choked. That is what I call recall. The recall is weak. Suppose the neighbor says that he also does not have water in his house. The possible deduction is that there is no water in the tank. I call it memory. But when you ask the neighboring building people, they say we have water in our tank. That means municipal corporation has, as per the timings, released water, but it has not gone into your overhead tank. That means the pipe from the municipal corporation to your overhead tank has choked. There may be another reason, that pipe is not choked, but your tank has developed a leak, and whatever was the water that was retained in the tank has leaked out. That means the memory has leaked out. Have we ever thought about this logic? When you compare it with the child, we say that the child has understood the subject, the teacher is happy. But that subject has not been retained by the child in the memory. Or even if the child has retained it in the memory, there is a confusion in the memory, so that at the time of the exam, the child has not remembered the right answers. The recall is aberrated, and then the child lands up with lesser marks. Frustration all around. When I interviewed many parents, they said that their child was doing very well academically, but we don't know how the child got less marks in his 12th board exam. Now what options do we have? Does he take admission into one stream, the other stream? Does he follow engineering pattern? Does he go to medical? Does he just take admission for normal BSc? This is the problem that parents and the children face. So it's not only question of scoring marks. It's not only question of the delivery of academic inputs. It is also the question of how the child's these traits been developed. We talk about creativity. How do we define creativity? Is it what we do in the school, some drawing, painting, some handicraft? Maybe out of sheer enthusiasm, a child might write a poetry or write a story and may be praised. But does the creativity end there? Look at that story that I told you. The guy froze the water and then he took the frozen water outside the restaurant. Is it not creativity? It certainly is. Creativity is the creative use of your brain for problem solving. That is creativity. I'll narrate you another anecdote. It's a true thing. About 8-9 years back, I was conducting a 1-week residential workshop for the children from 6th standard to 10th standard during summer vacations. These children were with me for 7 full days, and I kept them busy developing many aspects of personality in them. In terms of creativity, one day I narrated a very interesting story. I said, our soldiers who are deployed at Siachen Glacier, they occupy mountain tops, and every mountain top has very restricted place. So restricted number of people hold those posts. And in sub-0 degrees temperature and in adverse weather situations, it is very difficult to give them supplies, even letters from their families. They are dropped by helicopter, and the helicopter hovers on top of that post at a height of about 50 or 100 meters and drops the supplies. Sometimes because of the wind conditions, the supplies get drifted in the valley. They are lost. Having told that story, I said that I am going to give you eggs, raw eggs. I divided the group of 26 boys and girls in 6 syndicates and appointed one leader for each syndicate, because leadership also has to be developed right from childhood. I gave them thermocol pieces, balloons, strings, pins, glue, everything for packing those eggs. And I said, after you pack up, I'm going to make you drop your packages from the first floor. Consider that that's the helicopter height. And I drew a circle on the ground about 3 feet diameter. And I said, any syndicate that drops it close to the center of the circle without breaking the eggs will be the winner. And the children got busy. I pulled a chair and sat observing their interactions. A lot of ideas were thrown in. One boy from 6th standard, he came to me and he whispered into my ears. He said, "Sir, I have an idea. If we boil these eggs, what would happen? Even if the egg shell breaks, still the soldiers will be able to eat the egg. And then we won't have to go into packaging the eggs so meticulously." I said, brilliant idea, but don't share it with your friends. You will share it at the end of the exercise. Go and help out your group. He went and sat there. Then all 6 syndicates after some time said, we are ready. I made them go on the first floor, and from the veranda they all dropped their packages. Some packages, because of the wind, went here and there. Some packages dropped closer to the circle that was drawn, but with eggs broken. Finally, the syndicate which didn't have any egg broken and was the closest won that competition. What I am trying to tell you is, look at this boy. His thinking was totally out of the box. Creative thinking to solve a problem. I hope Indian Army people are listening, because they use a lot of such like practical tricks to solve their problems. That's one of their basic needs. I had conducted a lot of tests to test the scale at which the children have developed their skills and traits. Surprisingly, the findings were such that it made me sad. Most of the children lacked analytical ability, logic, reasoning, creative thinking, and concentration. These are just a few that I am narrating. We were testing almost 34 skills and traits through that test. What does it lead us to? It leads us to a deduction that we need to develop these traits and skills over and above the academic knowledge that is being imparted to them. When I talk about time sense, let me tell you that my wife and I were on a joy trip to Thailand. And as we were moving around at a place, we saw a large group of Indians who had also come there as tourists. And their tour guide was a lady from Thailand. And she was shouting at the top of her voice, begging everybody to assemble. Otherwise, they would get late to go to the next place. When she looked at us, she realized that we are also Indians. And she said that whenever I conduct Indian tourists, I have to give them 15 minutes earlier time than the expected time. I felt very sad. But that is the impression that others have. And why not? Do we follow our timings? If the parents don't follow their timings well, they cannot inculcate that in their children. Look at the sense of responsibility. If I were to say as to what is one problem, I mean there are many, but what is one problem that India faces? And I'll say sense of responsibility. How irresponsible we behave. Even during this COVID corona environment, lot of people have behaved irresponsibly. Our irresponsibility and lack of discipline leads people to break traffic rules. And children are very good at copying their parents, copying their elders. If they see their parents breaking the traffic rules, then obviously the children won't hesitate breaking the traffic rules. When we talk about physical aspects, these children are in their growing age and stage. We need to develop their strength, stamina, flexibility, and bother about their growth, as well as their ability to be tolerant to physical hardships and recovery power. A few years back, I visited a school. I have been able to visit more than 450 schools all over India. And through Intelkey Systems and Solutions Private Limited, we have applied the skills and trade development regime in more than 200 schools out of this 450. But this is one school where we had not applied. We had not conducted our regime. That school ran in 2 shifts. The primary school section, that was then till 5th, was in the morning session, and the secondary 6th onwards ran in the afternoon session. The classrooms were the same. Where a 3rd standard boy sat, now the 9th standard boy sat. But the benches remained the same. Look at the difference in the growth of a 3rd standard child and a 9th standard child. At least one of them would suffer because the bench is inadequate. That creates problems in the posture of the child. Are the parents and are the teachers and the school administration not thinking about this? This posture problem will lead to early backache, maybe at the age of 30. Who is responsible? Obviously, the bench where he sat for 5 or 6 hours every day in a very, very awkward position. Talking about physical abilities, these also matter and have a great impact on a person's success, because all these things, be it physical, be it intellectual, be it emotional, be it the life skills, any one aspect becoming weak affects the overall structural framework. In life skills, we talk about communication skills, which are so important. They have emerged as very important skill in the 21st century. You require it everywhere. How do we develop the communication skills? In the schools, for elocution inter-school competition or a debate inter-school competition, some 2-3 smart speakers, students, are selected, and they are the ones who are fielded as the school team. But what happens to the rest? Why shouldn't we develop their communication skills too? If the schools don't have time, can't the parents develop it? Why not make every child speak? The reason why these children don't speak is simple. They have a fear. Fear of facing the public. Fear of being laughed at. Fear of criticism. Someday they got to overcome that. But parents can do it very effectively at home. On a Saturday, every Saturday, can't they tell their child to give a small speech after dinner in front of all the family members? Select different subjects. By the year end, the child would have given 52 speeches. The child would have definitely developed the communication skills if after every speech the parents point out the points of improvement to the child. We talk about learning modes. At birth, a normal child who doesn't have problems in body and the brain, every child is at par. And every child learns at the beginning by association, learning by association. The child does not at birth know the face of the mother or father or the sister or the brother or grannies. Slowly, through association, the child starts relating his happiness and comfort with these faces, and then starts associating the sound. This is what the learning by association is. And then comes the next stage, rote learning. A child learns, a second, third standard child learns tables up to 20, say. But in the school, can't we teach the children how to construct a table? If the children know how to construct a table, learning of those tables with the right knowledge will become so easy. The third stage that is followed in most of the Indian institutions, educational institutions, is lecture-based transmission of facts. Very few schools and private tuition classes go to the next problem-solving approach except the problem-solving related to that particular subject. When we are talking about mathematics, through repeated practices, a child gets to learn to solve a particular type of sum, maybe a quadratic equation, maybe something based on triangles. But does that mean that the child's mathematical ability of the brain has been developed? No. My tests have proved that the children who scored well in their 10 board exam very recently in mathematics have shown that their mathematical brain has not been developed. They are like learning by the mice. An experiment was conducted a few decades ago in Europe, that a scientist wanted to see how the learning process takes place in the mice. So he constructed a huge 30 feet by 30 feet box of wood, and he had partitions. Those partitions were interconnected. He put a glass on top and kept some holes. At one end, diagonal end of that box, he placed some eatables, and in the segment diagonally opposite those eatables, he placed some mice, and he had some electric circuit going in where only one path didn't have electric circuit. Whenever the mice tried to go on a particular path, they got shocked and retraced their steps. After 8 days, all the mice learned the right way and they reached the place where eatables were kept. They all rushed there. Then he said, "Let me check whether the mice, having learnt one way to reach the eatables, do they also understand the reverse route?" So he interchanged the places of the eatables and the mice. Again the mice went helter-skelter, got their shocks, and took 7-8 days to retrace their right way. That means only one way was talked about or learned by the mice. The reverse way had not been learned because the brain of the mice was unable to relate the forward way and the reverse way. Are we teaching our entire generation one way of thought process, even in the academics? Aren't we into concept or phenomenon based learning? In Finland, phenomenon based learning or concept learning is a normal way. Aren't we teaching our children investigative learning and promoting their inquisitiveness and allowing them freedom of experimenting to learn by their own experiences? Can it be also done at home? Yes, it can be, provided we know the methods. I know those methods. When I said there are 60 possible skills and traits, 40 of them are fundamental. At Intelkey Systems and Solutions Private Limited, we exactly know what activities to be conducted for these children to develop these 40 skills and traits. It's a great thing to do, and it can't be done overnight. It has to be a repetitive activity-based learning where children get to learn and a mentor, be the mentor from the school, be parents with a mentor, or that mentoring can be done in a center called Center of Excellence, where children in that locality gather, maybe on Saturday and Sunday, and for 3 hours over the weekend, different aspects are inculcated, different traits and skills are inculcated into the children. I talked about courage. One parent asked me, what do I do to improve courage of my child? I said one simple activity is that make him join a trek group. Let him start going on regular treks. He will become physically fit. He will learn to cooperate with the other children. His daring will improve when he starts climbing some hills, starts tracing his steps through the jungles. His fear will go away. He will also become very adaptable. In one activity, so many things can be done. And if the mentor conducting the treks, if he is worth his salt, then he can also, while going on the trek, can impart some knowledge, general knowledge about soil, about the rocks. I was surprised to see in most of the schools, The laboratories are non-functional. They don't allow the children to handle the equipment because of the fear that the glass test tubes might break, the beakers might break. So what? How much do these cost? Barely any. At least in the private schools where the students are paying fat amount of fees, why can't experiments be done? I go a step beyond and I say, why can't schools establish a geography laboratory? In that geography laboratory, you can keep lot of samples of different soils in India, different rocks, different minerals. There are so many things that can be kept there. And beautiful charts explaining so-called academic things where the child can relate them to what the child sees on ground. Is it so difficult to do this? In 2016, Government of India had made a draft education policy in which all this was enshrined. That draft remained on the paper as draft only. Again in 2019, Kasturi Rangan Committee created a draft education policy. They have included all this as desirable activities in the schools. It's 1 year since then. I have had the pleasure of reading through the 2016 draft education policy as well as 2019 draft education policy. Beautifully documented, well articulated. But the fear is that it might not get converted into reality and these drafts will remain as drafts. But if the schools take it up, if the parents take it up, Intel Key Systems and Solutions Private Limited is there to help you out. We are here to make your students or your children globally competent and responsible citizens. Either the schools take up this as part of their extracurricular activities in the school. As Dale Carnegie said, 15% is the academics and 85% are the other skills and traits. So ratio of 1:6. If that is the ratio, then for every 6 academic periods, there should be 1 development period. Can this be really achieved? If you want to, we can. And if you do it for 3 consecutive years, you will find a difference in the children. A school in Mumbai employed 2 mentors to get these activities done, and the development periods were dovetailed into the school timetable. And these mentors really did wonders. And the benefits started getting seen after about 1.5 years, because it's not a wand of magic. Things won't happen all of a sudden. It takes time to nurture. It takes time to construct a building. It takes time to convert a human from an ordinary to an extraordinary human. We are there for you. Some centers of excellence could be set up, as I had already said. Those centers of excellence could be running on Saturday, Sundays in a school building with some open space. The students could come there. Some enthusiasts who are interested in developing these students could be trained by Intel Key. The school teachers could be trained by Intel Key and implement this model. And then you will find that the next generation will be globally competent. Otherwise, we will continue to roll out ordinary job-seeking youth in the framework of what Lord Macaulay had done for the Indians when the British were governing us. It served their purpose all right, but in the competitive world of 21st century, it won't serve our purpose. We need to make our children globally competent, and for that we need to inculcate all these traits and skills, of course in different formats, at different degrees in these children. Why else India is not winning very many gold medals at the international Olympiads? There have been a lot of local Olympiads calling themselves as international Olympiads that have sprouted up. But the international Olympiad, where these children pitch against internationally developed other children, can we send contingents and will win gold medals? I am writing a few telephone numbers. Any of you wants to contact me, you are most welcome to contact me. I am just writing my Intel Keys mail ID. Here it is, support@Entelkey, ENTELKI.in, www.support@entelkey.in, and you can also contact us on these telephone numbers: 727 6050 987, else 8623 072 487, or 9823 980 987. Do come forward, contact us. We are here to help the children. We are here to develop our children. We are here to develop our next generation and build up this nation. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best. Pray to God that your children get developed and they trace their way to a glorious, glorious, real future that they deserve. Thank you.